Spotify listeners skew younger. The latest from podnews.net with Libsyn. Stop dreaming, start podcasting. Disco has released a free report containing data from more than 17,000 podcast listeners. Spotify is the most preferred podcast platform, though Spotify skews significantly younger than Apple Podcasts. For people aged 65 or more, Google Podcasts and Apple Podcasts are the most preferred after the radio. Greg Marston, a professional UK voiceover, has discovered his voice has been cloned by Revoicer, an AI-powered text-to-speech service, without his knowledge. It turns out that the company has bought the rights to his voice from a company he'd signed a contract with in 2005 to lend his voice to a sat-nav. Marston, the voice of LBC, Joburg 702 and Virgin Smooth in Bangkok, now finds himself in competition with his own voice. Aussie podcasters Tony and Ryan are to embark on a marathon 50-hour live stream, 1 minute for every new Patreon member. The podcast, a Spotify exclusive, gets more than 1 million downloads a month. Mopod has added AI-powered ad copy and precision targeting to its self-serve platform. The product turns podcast episodes into display ads, which are placed across the web to attract new listeners. Rain reports that the number of new podcasts launched in June was the lowest in 12 months, according to Listen Notes. Our active podcast trend graph, sourced from Podcast Index, shows a fall for active podcasts by about 10% since March. And congratulations to podcast advertising agency Oxford Road, which is 10 years old this week. Media Roundtable, their podcast, looks back at the company's bootstrapped beginnings. Now, Misleading Behaviour Corner, and on one naughty step, podcast hosting company Podbean, which is misleading Google users searching for its competitor Captivate. A search for Captivate FM returns a paid result from Podbean impersonating the company against Google Ads policy and US trademark law. Podbean didn't respond to Pod News' inquiries this week, and the misleading ads are still running. And on another naughty step, the BBC, who's announced a set of topical satirical shows for its Friday night comedy podcast. Each special will be available after broadcast, first on BBC Sounds and on RSS soon after, says the press release. Soon after? Well, the BBC press office admits to Pod News that these shows are delayed for 30 days on Open RSS, as part of a trial announced 18 months ago to push listeners to install the BBC's data-hungry Sounds app. Currently, the podcast consists of a topical news show looking at the week's headlines, which is being released 30 days late. And in podcast news, the Booker Prize podcast is new today from the 54-year-old UK-based Literary Prize for English language novels. L.A. Mays looks at Barbie in a new miniseries out today from LAist Studios. And Believable, the Coco Berthman story, is the first true crime podcast from Dear Media, looking at Coco Berthman, who became internet famous, sharing her story of surviving sex trafficking as a young child growing up in Germany, and later being arrested after raising money for a fake cancer diagnosis. This podcast is sponsored by Libsyn. Are you ready to tell your story? Libsyn has an all-in-one, fast, easy podcast tool that allows you to plan, record and create your podcast today. Stop dreaming, start podcasting with Libsyn at libsyn.com. And that's the latest from our newsletter. To read all the stories and subscribe are at podnews.net.